So and then I said,
Nope.
No.
Nope.
What?
We don't want to hear the end of this joke. I was going to bitch about Craig only operating in one channel, and then you start off on some horrible joke. We're not going there.
It's all I have in life right now is horrible jokes.
Well, let's take that away too.
Save it for the end. How about that?
Oh, well, it doesn't work in the end. It only works in the beginning.
Yep.
That's what she said.
All right. You ruined me.
I did. Okay, we are the Grumpy Dungeon Masters. I'm Jay. I'm joined by Christopher, Kristian, and Dan. Say hi, guys.
Hi, guys.
Hello there.
Fucker.
Yep. All right. All is right in the world.
No, it's not. We're supposed to say hi, guys. And he doesn't say hi, guys. And it's been 7 years.
Actually, everything is not right in the world. I actually lost a 5e character this weekend. I've never.
My God.
I know. I've never lost a 5e character before. Never.
Well, I also don't think you play on hard mode, so.
What level was the character?
8.
Ooh.
Okay, how?
Curse of Strahd. That's how.
Okay, but still, again, how?
Yeah. All right. So we're going to talk Curse of Strahd. So if you guys don't want spoilers for whatever reason from this 40-year-old module, then I'm sorry.
Curse of Strahd's only a decade-old module. There's a lot of stuff added to Curse of Strahd that was not in the OG game.
So the Amber Temple. Are you familiar with it?
Which was not in the original game. Yeah. Okay. Go on. I'm very familiar with it. I actually had to run it as a postscript to my game because I was rushing to finish my game before my son was born. So we skipped it.
Okay. We could have skipped it, but
you definitely can skip it.
Yeah. No, we would have skipped it if so the character I was playing is Rogue, and I ended up having to make a bargain with Shar to avoid a curse.
Okay.
And so I was effectively kind of her minion, and she had sent me to the Amber Temple to find power, which would help me in my upcoming, struggles against Strahd.
A lot of that happening at the Amber Temple. That shouldn't be hard.
Yeah. So we get into the Amber Temple, and we kill a spellcaster or something or other. I don't even remember. We find the corpse of a caster is what it was, and there's a staff on it.
Oh yeah. Yep. There sure is.
It wasn't me. Our barbarian picks it up.
Excellent.
And he is then cursed to seek out power throughout the Amber Temple. So we go down into the lower levels of the temple, and he grabs a hold of one of the sarcophagi and he fails his fucking charisma save and is possessed by an evil entity. Shar tells me that, hey, this is where the power's at, these sarcophagi. So I grab one. I succeed in my charisma saving throw, so I get the abilities, but I'm not cursed. So he wanders out of the room, turns around, and fucking ice storms us because that was what the power was he got. He went full chaotic evil, gonna kill the whole party. So we had to nuke him. I'm, like I said, I'm a rogue. I get into melee with the barbarian, do some damage. Everybody's doing damage to him, and then he smashes me because he's a fucking barbarian. So I'm like, okay, it's fine. Somebody will heal me. So I'm on the ground. He hits me once, and two instant failed death saves. I'd already made my first death save. I'm like, all right, somebody will heal me. The ranger comes over and rather than healing, tries a medicine check and fails the medicine check. And the next person in the lineup is the warlock, who could have come over and done the exact same thing. Instead, the warlock's like, I Eldritch Blast the barbarian. And then on my next saving throw,
warlock thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then I just failed my next death save.
And you have nobody in the party that has Revivify?
He's dead.
No, because we had no clerics. All of our druids were not at the game that weekend. We had 2 druids who were not present. We had no clerics. Oh, and the Revivify scroll was on my body, and nobody bothered to fucking look. Nobody.
If nobody there can cast it,
yeah. Well, yeah, but they could have taken it back. They could have dragged my body back to a town, got a cleric there to revivify me. Instead, they burned the bodies.
Revivify is only
Yeah, it's a minute. You're
Oh,
dead
well, never mind. Well, whatever. They could have got raised dead or something, but no, they burned the bodies. So.
I'm pretty sure, though, that. Well, I mean, spoilers, I guess, for again the 10-year-old module. But one, the barbarian didn't get the power to blast y'all with an ice storm from the sarcophagus. That was from the staff of frost he picked up from the dead wizard.
Oh, okay.
And two, I'm pretty sure one of the sarcophagi could have given one of y'all like resurrection.
That's probable, but after the barbarian was dead, after the rogue was dead, the 3 people that were left alive decided we're leaving this place.
You know what? That's actually fair on their part.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm guessing you didn't get to the. I guess the final boss or
I know
the
about
librarian, as it were.
Yeah. We were after we decided we were not doing the Amber Temple. The DM told a couple of us, what was in there. It's like, oh, okay, I love it.
Yeah. The Eastern sarcophagus could have given somebody a reincarnate spell.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, you could still come back, maybe.
Well, no, I already had a cleric on standby that I'm playing now.
It sounds like you probably need one for Strut anyway. So,
well, we had 2 druids. Both of them were absent.
What? Druids don't heal shit. Come on, they transform into fucking like rhinoceroses and blast things with fire. They don't heal people. I know what druids look like.
They have most of the same healing spells that clerics get. So
yet are never convinced to use it. Much like warlocks are never convinced to use a potion on somebody instead of eldritch blasting.
I know, right?
I mean, they used to have that one. The druids, that is, used to have that one really amazing healing spell until they nerfed it, where you create. No. It was you could conjure like some kind of like spirit animal, and that animal lasted for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Every time it passed through somebody, it healed them.
That was in the Unearthed Arcana, though.
I mean, there's an iteration of it with the wildfire spirit. Whenever you kill something, somebody can pass through the body where the thing died, and they can heal from it. It's like a 10th level ability, maybe 12th level. I don't know.
I just remember one of my players had it, and I don't think it was UA. But pretty much like you use it in combat and it lasts for all of combat, and then like out of combat, it's like, okay, I'm just gonna run through you with this turtle, and everyone gets healed.
I think it's
a healing turtle.
It is.
It's one of the subclasses. They have the druid subclasses that can summon like some sort of celestial spirit that
meow.
Yeah, sorry, cats.
I think it's actually just called healing spirit, if I recall. Maybe not. I don't know. It's been a long time. I don't play druids.
Yeah.
Who knows?
No one plays druids. And what's kind of
no, that's not true. A lot of people play druids.
Yeah.
No one plays druids well. Let's talk about that.
No, the spell you're thinking about is from Xanatar's. It's called Healing Spirit. Lasts for concentration up to a minute. So, like Waybill said, you cast it the last round of combat, and then you basically have 10d6 worth of healing to throw at people.
Yeah, it's pretty broke.
Yeah, that seems good.
So, oddly enough, you dying in your game for the first time ever, I guess, people have finally failed you, and now you know what it feels like to die in 5e. My Eventually group have been dying, but one of the players has enough diamond in his inventory to basically resurrect everybody as they die. I'm running through the Gary Con modules, and the very first one,
okay,
the giant is trapped in this giant diamond prison, and so when it shatters, okay, at the very end of the module, it says it breaks away, and everyone can scoop up at least 300 gold of diamond shards. All right. And so basically he was like, okay, so there's just diamond everywhere, right? It's like, yeah. He's like, all right, can I get enough to, use these diamonds as resurrection? Since the diamond shards are worth 300 gold? I'm like, I guess. He's like, all right, well, I'm going to gather all these up. And then for the rest of the campaign so far, people keep dying. And he's like, well, I've got another shot of diamond left. And everyone's been using their diamond to resurrect.
You're aware the component is a diamond worth at least 1,000 gold.
Oh, 1,000 gold, whatever.
Okay, yeah, because if they're worth 1,000 gold, all right, sure. But
everyone got I think everyone's got a diamond worth 300, and then he went through and mined out more or something like that. But basically, nonetheless, he's been resurrecting the people, and no one's been dying horrible deaths in my ALO game for the past couple of months, which I kind of like. To be fair.
For a change, I guess. Whatever.
They did happen to get lost inside of a ocean of darkness for a decade, and most of them went insane, but that's besides the point.
Yeah, man, that's typical. It's fine.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that. Insanity in 5e is trash anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Get yourself a restoration.
The madness tables are pretty fun, and they're very open to let people kind of do whatever they want to do, so people can have fun with it.
Yeah, I think they're fun if you don't go beyond, I think, with a midterm madness or whatever, the one that only lasts for a couple of hours or days. If you do beyond that, it gets old real fast.
Well, I mean, you don't give them like hundreds of them, but like the water, basically, you have to always be drunk. I love that one.
I don't.
That would just be annoying.
That would just be annoying.
Role play, yeah.
Hey, role play like you're drunk for the next 3 game sessions.
Oh, I would fucking hate that.
Yeah.
No, that is a plague on the DM, not the player.
Yeah, that is definitely a punishment for the DM.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I kind of find it funny.
Yep, that says everything about you.
Different strokes for different folks, man. Different strokes.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that was my weekend. So, I guess we could talk Caverns of Thracia. I think we talked about it briefly a couple of weeks ago, but
yeah, the PDF came out a while ago. And I think we briefly talked about it. I mean, when we kind of talked about, just generally speaking, all the Goodman Games original adventures reincarnated. But
yeah,
and also I think whenever they announced their latest Kickstarter for.
The Judges Guild.
The Judges Guild stuff. Invincible City, or this City State of the Invincible Overlord.
Yeah, that one.
It? Did I get it right, Kristian?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, City State of the Invincible Overlord, which I got a notification the Kickstarter is happening, I think, in a couple of weeks now. So.
God damn it. Of course.
I can't remember if I got Caverns of Thracia or not.
It should be arriving soon if you did. Well,
have you guys had a chance to look over the stuff? I'm interested to hear how it plays out and what's different between DCC and 5e.
Well, I only have the 5e version here.
I only have the DCC version here.
And it pretty much matches up what I got sent via PDF several months ago before the actual physical copies arrived. And I've only just cracked them open, but I will say that I am very happy to see that one that comes with a complete separate booklet that has handouts, and they're very old school style black and white handouts that I assume are either recreations of the original or possibly even the originals. I think I actually saw something that came with it. I don't know if it came with yours, Jay, but there's the Goodman Games Gazette. But
yes,
it was mentioned that I think on the second to last page, Thracia, the Lost Handouts. The Caverns of Thracia's crowdfunding campaign proved so popular we blew through our stretch goals. Collected here for the first time is the artwork used to illustrate those stretch goals, ready for use as handouts in your own campaigns. So yeah, this is all newly created for this release of it, which is great. There's also some color. Like full 8.5 by 11 color pages of what I can only assume are the big bads of the Caverns of Thracia, some of which you can see on the cover of the book. It also comes with a DM screen. Comes with a cool sticker. This is Caverns of Thracia with a cool little halberd on it. It also comes with 1, 2, 3, 4 full fold-out maps. And they're not black and white. They're in color. They don't look like watercolors like you would see for a Forgotten Realms style map or Greyhawk.
They're not incarnate maps.
They look like somebody took. I mean, my guess here is that there's obviously some Photoshop going on in here, but just looking at it with my own eye of with a similar set of skills, it looks to me like it's colored pencil over a hex grid that somebody probably distorted intentionally in Photoshop to basically use as a base, because it has that cool little hex grid thing where you have like 1827, 1828, 1829, and it has the different numbers, so you can do a hex crawl, which is very exciting because there's a full like hex crawl map of the islands of Thracia, and it's a 2-sided map. So on one side of it is the hex crawl version with all the keys for the DM, and on the other side of it is just like the classic map if you wanted to basically use it as a handout for the PCs. What's also cool is that it comes with a separate map that's probably, it looks like almost twice the size of the map. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm guessing you have the same hand as I have, Jay.
Sounds like it.
It is a blank island of Thracia of hexes. As in, like, so either, I haven't really read through the intent of it, but my guess is either for the PCs to map over, or for you as the DM to basically mix it up and change it. But since it's blank, I'm guessing like this is an exploration hex crawl, and like you hand it to whoever your most artistic player is. you draw the mountains and the things that have been named and the things that you found in the different hexes on this thing, and I find that to be incredibly cool.
Yeah, no, that was my favorite thing that they gave me. I was like, I'm just going to give this to my players, and as they explore, we can fill this thing in.
Yeah, and like each of the hexes is only a mile as opposed to like maybe the 6 miles, which is what a lot of the hex grids are. So like you could travel, I think, I guess Thracia is probably jungle terrain or something like that. So maybe you can travel like 6 hexes a day or something like that, as opposed to like 2 or 3 hexes. Like 6-mile hexes.
I haven't been able to find an exact travel distance or anything, so I think it's just sort of going to be left up to you how far you want them to be able to travel. Yeah,
I'll have to dig into that deeper, but there's also a separate, like, and like I was saying, there's a lot of handouts here, which is great. Like, these are all full fold-out color maps, really done really well. Somewhere in between, Prismacolor markers and nice colored pencil work. But there's the Starry Archipelago that has like a series of different islands, including the island of Thracia. So basically, I'm guessing you're going to basically find your way to Thracia. And there's a hex crawl version of that, but also that one's not keyed. So maybe it's just for distances. And then there's the, just the map that has no hexes on it, which is helpful for if you're doing VTT or if you're doing just using as a handout and stuff. And then there's a full-on like village map that is sort of an overview of the ruins of Thracia, which looks like if you were to zoom in on like a Google Map version of like some ancient Mayan ruins that were recently discovered in a rainforest or something, and then somebody started kind of labeling it, but didn't quite finish. But this has been translated to, again, with the same sort of between Prismacolor markers and colored pencil look. It looks really, really cool. So essentially, maybe you show the PCs the unlabeled map that's on the backside of it whenever they arrive, and they're looking down from it, from a volcano or like a mountainside or something like that. So you see your overview, and they're like, hey, there you go. You can fill this out as you want to see it. And then of course the other side's labeled, A through T of different things that are in different locations. So again, I mean, Goodman Games kind of knocking it out of the park with just the thoroughness of recreating this adventure, but expanding on it as well.
Dan, have you started digging through the book at all yet?
I have not. I'm going to let you do that. I'm really just kind of going through the handouts and accessories that have come with it. Again, like I got home at like 6 o'clock and just cracked this thing open at 7.
Oh, okay. So you got it today. All right.
Yeah, I just got it today. But I'm also looking at the GM screen. And the GM screen has basically all the keyed maps for exploring the ruins and the different levels of the caverns. Levels 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 different levels of 3. But essentially, you can have your DM screen of your 5e DM screen, and then have this one next to it, and not have to be flipping through the book to figure out what's labeled where, which is kind of nice. But I'll let you take over as far as diving into the book itself, since I assume the DCC version is basically the same written adventure. It's just stats.
Yeah, it's more or less the same adventure. So when I got it, I also paid a little extra and got the Monsters and Magic of Thracia, which is a 5e and DCC book with a few magic items and monsters. Like that was only an extra $10 or $15. It wasn't much. And then they also,
I saw that when it was out. Might have tried to pick that up. Cool.
Yeah, but then there's also 2 adventures that came with it. Beneath the Isle of the Serpents, which is a Caverns of Thracia level 1 DCC adventure. And then there was the Hell Pits of Nightfang, which is a level 5 one. That one is not specifically for Caverns of Thracia, but it is a Janelle Jaquay adventure.
Oh, cool.
So
awesome.
Yeah.
Real quick, someone listened to our podcast, one of our older episodes, and commented it in our comments that it was pronounced Janelle.
That's what I just said, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right, but I don't know if that person was saying that it was pronounced Janelle or something like that, because they typed that out in text. So I don't know how they're pronouncing it. I'm very confused. I was very confused by the comment. I didn't say anything, but
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not even going to worry about it. Moving on. So the book itself is, and I don't want to talk too much about the design of it, because we did talk about it a couple weeks ago. It's got a large section in the front that talks about the history of the Caverns of Thracia. Then it has the original first edition Caverns of Thracia Judges Guild, and then it has, in my case, the DCC version. In Dan's case, the 5e version of it. But it's well laid out. There is nothing in this book at all about the overland maps. So you, as the game master, get to decide what is at every single one of those locations on those maps.
Really? So there's no like random encounter tables or anything like that either?
There's wandering monster tables, but those are for the dungeon. Those are for the Caverns of Thracia. Those are not overland. So everything that's on those overland maps, it shows the location on those maps of where the caverns are, and it'll show some mountains and it'll show some villages and stuff, and it does kind of talk about some of the things that live there, specifically sort of the people, the different tribes, and what languages they speak. It does go into the history of how the dungeon came to be and so forth. But everything that is above ground, you kind of get to build yourself. So the only thing in here is the dungeon, and it's God, I think 6 levels.
It's four that I saw, but
it's more than that. The monsters are in here in the back too. So
yeah, and I also found the appendix where it has the new domains, equipment, spells, and magic items. We have apparently the gods of death, dying, and necrosis, and decay, such as Anubis, Hades, Set, Thanatos, and his alter ego, the Dark One, promote death as the natural end of all things, and therefore the pinnacle of mortal achievement. Mortality domain, which is kind of neat.
Yeah.
And there's apparently new equipment, including a repeating ballista, masterwork weapons, reintroducing that bad boy from 3rd edition. Skyrockets in flight. We have
thinking the same thing.
Rockets in flight. We have some old school 1st edition spells coming back in here, which is beautiful. I love this.
Which spells?
Dark, limited wish, invisibility 10-foot radius, hypnotism, hold portal, sticks to snakes, stone to flesh, transmute rock, and protection from normal missiles.
I love it. I love that.
I used stick to snakes actually in my AL game, not like a week or two ago. Probably not in the way that they intended there, but as a quick aside, in the game,
I mean, it's a classic biblical spell, so seems fun.
In our AL game, they killed a snake, and inside was a dead body of a villager, and the guy used Revivify on it, and it said that the child was just recently eaten. So I was thinking, okay, maybe it was in the minute. Whatever. They resurrected it, and ever since then, this girl's been following them around, thinking that this guy's some kind of divine seer because he could res her, because commoners are dumb, and every once in a while, I'll basically use her through one of his spell slots, and one of the things I cast was stick to snakes. I just Googled it real quick, found it, and threw it, and hey, this worked.
The DCC one actually has 3 spells that are not part of the normal DCC book that they added. They added Silence, which I would have just assumed was in DCC, but it isn't. Then there's another one called Rapture of the Deep. And then there's another one called Challenge Deep. But the Rapture of the Deep, the gases in the victim's blood undergo compression as if under high pressure, causing a range of potentially debilitating effects. You give them the bends.
Fantastic.
And Challenge Deep is the caster summons the pressure of the watery depths, subjecting their foes to the crushing forces of the darkest places of the ocean. And DCC has a lot of different effects for every spell, so it just sort of depends on how well you roll.
Oh, the first level module that came with the DCC version, was it called the Alabaster Tower of Thracia?
No, I think I have a PDF of that one. That one I would have to order it separately, I believe. But
yeah,
no,
I have a PDF of that the Alabaster.
Yeah, beneath
Alabaster.
beneath the Isle of the Serpents is the one that I got.
Okay, that's cool.
So it does look like I did buy the books only tier of this thing.
So it may still be in the mail.
It has yet to ship.
Oh, okay.
Don't know why mine doesn't ship. Other than
I'm
being
guessing
a
it's
W.
probably the highest tiers go first, and then the people who just order books.
So Chris, I just want to point out. I want to point out. I got my shipping notice a week after I actually received mine.
No, my shipping notice was a week before I received mine, so who knows?
Yeah, so best of luck.
Listen, the interns at Goodman Games will get it out. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, you'll get it. Don't worry.
I mean, they put a whole post out praising them, and no, I don't get a shipping notice.
I didn't
you
either.
know what? First off, write a nastygram as if things in the mail. That way you can eat your own words later.
I did actually write a nastygram to the Kickstarter for the Sky Raiders of Abraxia book, and while it came damaged, still have yet to receive any comment or response to that. And I honestly don't know what to do at this point in time. No.
By right as do you mean like you found their support email and contacted support, or did you just leave some random comment on a Kickstarter that's 4 years old?
Well, so I didn't just leave a comment like some people have, but I will say that the comments of people having problems with the shipping have received responses from the person that I directly messaged, and the person that I directly messaged was the person that started the Kickstarter. So for some reason they are answering comments, they're just not answering the actual, I don't know, direct messages. So, but there's no other support email or anything to do other than the Kickstarter and that person that's running it. So I'm not really sure. So like on one hand, I was at Target today, and I'm still kind of bitter about this Raiders of Abraxia book coming in damaged. And there was something else by the Hickmans that was for sale at Target. And I looked at it and I was like, well, I really kind of want this. At least this book's not damaged. But I was kind of like, should I even buy this? Because the only other thing that I bought from them is, considerably damaged, and I can't really do anything about it. But I did end up buying it. I bought the Chronicles of Dragonlance. It's like the first 3 novels, all in one giant, like, hardbound book.
One giant, impossible to read book. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen that, and it's like, yeah, I'll stick with my old paperback.
Yep.
Well, I mean, for me, it's great because I got these big, strong hands, and it's easy for me
your big, strong hands. That's nice. That's nice.
Well, I can't say big strong hands without thinking about that rock guy from Neverending Story.
We were with you.
Big strong hands.
But I couldn't hold it back from the nothing. So I don't know. I picked that up and I was like, okay, maybe I'll actually read some Dragonlance and understand why you guys like it so much. But then I realized that I probably won't read it.
Yeah, you're not going to read that. First off, second off, those first 3 novels are not going to really and truly explain why we like Dragonlance.
We like Dragonlance because we've read it when we were kids, and it was an immersive experience wherein we probably all played D&D by that point, I'm guessing. And for me, at least, it was, oh, this is like a party going through an adventure, and it's like just straight up D&D, because all the other fantasy novels I'd read typically was the story of a single hero and whatever they were doing. Maybe like two people, like Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser, but like it wasn't ever like the adventuring party. And this was just clearly just a D&D book about a D&D party doing D&D shit.
Yeah, that's what those first 3 novels are.
That's what they meant to me, at least.
Well, hopefully I do enjoy it if I actually read it. But nonetheless, it's going to look good on my shelf, I think.
I read those 3, the next 3, and a bunch of other ones, but I read them all as a kid, and I will never go back and try to read them again.
So I don't know, Kristian.
Really bad, huh?
We did actually go back to it about,
regrettably,
7 years ago, I think.
Yeah, we
give
did.
Or take. Yeah, so Kristian and I are walking Hadrian's Wall with a buddy of ours, Jason, and Jason's like, "Hey, you guys mind if I like play an audiobook while we're walking?" I'm like, "Hey, man, we got like 6 hours ahead of us at least, so sure." And at a certain point, like Kristian and our other buddy Billy broke off from us. I'm guessing because like the Dragonlance book 1 was droning on, and me and Rob, our other hobbled friend, who were not very fast, continued very slowly listening to the entirety of the Chronicles of Dragonlance. And let me just say that the quote of the book that I recall vividly, that we've replayed multiple times while giggling, was there's a scene where Tanis Half-Elven, along with all the rest of the party, they're like undercover and they're acting like they're, I don't know, like circus performers or something in a tavern. Everyone's trying to show what cool and unique abilities they have. Like what Caramon can, like, lift up like hit, what's her face, and like a barrel of beer at the same time, and like Raceling can, like, I don't know, make like some minor illusions and stuff. And then Tanis Half-Elven turns off the lights and says, "And I can see
in the dark."
Very lengthy pause. In the dark. And that was a special ability. It's like, oh my god. Somebody's in awe that he can see in the dark? What? He's a half-elf!
Yep.
Oh my god. Yeah, it was and we've replayed it dozens of times.
Yeah.
Even when we got to the car and started driving around Wales, just chuckling about Tanis Half-Elven seeing in the dark. So yeah, it is a novel of its time, and like they were not great authors at that time. I mean, but it's definitely something I'm very nostalgic about. And Kristian's right. I'm not going to intentionally go back and read them unless I like read them to my son or something.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. The setting is Dragonlance as a setting is a fantastic setting. But the novels, a lot of the early novels, not worth rereading. The same thing goes for Forgotten Realms.
Oh, yeah. And you guys made me really, really happy I made this purchase. Thanks.
You're welcome,
glad
buddy.
to help.
Here to help.
But you said it yourself. It'll look nice on your bookshelf, exactly like all of the D&D novels I have.
Yeah, I'm not selling or dumping any of my old D&D novels. Every now and then I loan them out to people who are like, "Hey, can I do you have any of these books?" I'm like, "Yeah, I've got a bunch of those. Just grab them." And 3 years later, they're like, "I only read one of them. They were really bad." It's like, "Yeah, I know."
Yep. So some D&D novels are actually really good, but it can be very hit or miss, man.
I will say, Chris, if you get a chance, if you really want the feel of what Gygax was going for when he wrote Greyhawk, pick up the Gord the Rogue series.
Yeah, I've got one of those.
Highly recommend starting at the very beginning, and it starts it doesn't read necessarily like a D&D book. It reads much more like Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser, because Gord ends up with like his barbarian friend sort of thing, and like you can tell where Gygax's inspiration was coming from, and But Gord, like, it begins like in his childhood as like a beggar and a pickpocket, and ends up getting into the Thieves Guild, then Assassins, and then buying his way out, and then adventuring, and all the the uniqueness of finding certain magic items, and then by like the 5th or 6th book or whatever, he's like somehow trying to doing the epic thing that you end up doing at end game of D&D games, where like you're trying to stop a war between hell and the abyss that's happening on the fields outside of Greyhawk or something. So like it's an interesting thing just because he was writing these books, I think, when he was basically getting exiled out of TSR. If I look back at the dates of like when they were published. So who knows whether he was on the hook for them before or after he left TSR? But they're very interesting novels that I would definitely read if you haven't.
Yeah. Now that being said, you might can find PDFs of them easily. If you want the physical copies, those are going to run you $15 to $20 a piece.
I bet you anything you can get them on Abe Books for less than that.
No, almost all of those old D&D novels or anything with Gygax's name on it, you're gonna pay up for it.
That's fair.
You're gonna pay retail price.
Yeah, I mean you really are.
$15.
Yeah, you're gonna pay $15 to $20 for most of that stuff.
Well, I will say though that if you have any used bookstores of any note near you, like we have like a book nook that is like the classic used bookstore where you can find 30-year-old like used copies of like The Hobbit for like $2 still.
Yeah.
You know, something like that, you could probably still find it. But yeah. I think Jay's right. If you look online, anything with Gygax's name on it's just basically been sold out for years.
Yeah, if you're able to find stuff like that at a used bookstore stuff, I mean, I have literally a wall full of D&D novels that I've paid anywhere from $1 to $3 a piece for. But I have spent a few years sourcing these things out at used bookstores, and
and most of my books are the same sort of thing. Like I usually when I travel, I'll try to find a used bookstore and just pop in, and I'll usually browse their fantasy section. If I see something that I know I have on my shelf, I'll usually pick it up. But it's the same sort of thing. But like if I can get a deal on it, I'm not paying $50 for a paperback copy of a book that cost $2 originally, especially if it's not signed or something. So
yep.
I'm going to say this with the confidence of knowing the last time I said something like this, I was proven immediately wrong. But there are no used bookstores here in the Charleston area at all.
Yeah, we know that's not true. But
yeah, no, it is. It is. I did find one, but it was full of mostly just old romance novels. Very nice lady. She actually had like a DVD rack. She's like, I don't like any of these DVDs. Like, you can just take them if you want. I was like, no, I'll buy some DVDs if I find some good ones. And
all right, I'm gonna go and prove you wrong immediately. Sullivan's Trade Book in Charleston looks like it's just stinky with old fantasy paperback books.
Like I said, there are no used bookstores here in Charleston.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Turning Page Bookshop. Guilty Pleasure. Well, Guilty Pleasures may not be, but
that is a porn store, sir.
Hey, well, there's reading material in there.
Hey, used books, a little sticky. It's fine.
Main
Why are all
Street
the books
Reads,
sticky?
Indigo Books. Yeah. Okay.
Listen, there are no used bookstores in Charleston. I still have to go by the pinball store and see if I can't find the D&D game. But I played it at the,
we played it a good bit at Gary Con.
Yeah, we played it at Gary Con. Still got that video. I should probably post it. It should be fun.
So, Jay, you are absolutely 100% correct on your pricing of Gygax's old stuff.
Yep.
A paperback crappy copy of Saga of Old City, the first book in the Or the Rogue series, will run you $41 plus shipping and handling on Abe Books.
Oh wow! Yeah.
but like a perfect copy of it apparently is $200. Somebody's trying to get $253 for it.
Wait, which book was this?
Saga of Old City. It actually has the Greyhawk Adventures logo on the top of it by Gary.
Oh,
Geiger.
yeah.
It doesn't even say Gord the Rogue on it because it was the first book of the series, and I don't think he knew he was going to make a series. But it has a Clyde Caldwell art on the front of it.
Oh wow! Yeah, that's
he's like fighting a demon or something.
Yeah. Oh, I think I've actually sold that book before, and I would have got 40 or 50 out of it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I have that exact copy. Yeah.
Yeah. Anything with those Greyhawk Adventures, that logo on there's going to be worth a pretty penny usually. Yep. it sucks because I want all of these books for my own collections, but sometimes they're just too valuable, and I have, if I can get $30 out of a paperback I paid $2 for, you're damn right I'm going to sell it.
All right, well, I'm gonna link the Wikipedia entry for the series to y'all in the Grumpy chat. That way you can look up the books individually and see if you can find them somewhere. But yeah, like I said, definitely worth reading if you're any sort of historian of D&D and fan of old school games.
Yeah, which every one of us here is.
Yeah. So okay. Do we want to talk about the latest Unearthed Arcana? Or Kristian, did you have something you wanted to jump into here?
Yeah, I think we could probably have time for one of those two, maybe, but probably not both.
Let's do Unearthed Arcana next week. I'm sure enough people have bitched about the
I
Scion.
honestly think that we talked about it already on the podcast.
Did. We definitely
and
did.
I know you say that we haven't done it, but I feel in my psionic powers, with the true confidence that I am saying,
just like
the previous statement,
right? Yeah, like there's no used bookstore.
Just like there's no used bookstore.
Right. So we know that that's wrong. So I'll bring up
area.
We have not talked about the Scion in any way, shape, or form, but I don't know. I kind of like. I don't know. I don't feel like they're ever going to put enough effort into that class to make it worth it. So let's hold off on that for a little bit because I know people are still putting out videos and shit about it.
And I've done some digging to talk about like old rules for Psionics too. Like I have my nice copy of the complete Psionics handbook here. So, but yeah, let's do that next time. What I was going to bring up was, this applies, I guess, mostly to D&D, but I guess it can be any role-playing game. But D&D seems to attract the type for character backstories.
Vampire the Masquerade.
Backstory, yeah, definitely vampire. Oh gosh. People that write backstories for their characters, is it good that people do that? What's the difference between, like, what's a good, useful backstory to the DM or player versus a backstory that is a hindrance to the DM or the party at large?
I think
that's a complicated question.
Everybody's going to have their own thoughts on that. Okay, I guess I'll kind of chime in first. With my character that passed away in Ravenloft, I had at least a minimal idea of the character's history because the character wasn't from Ravenloft. He got sucked into the mist. I personally had a minimal idea of that character. There was no real backstory. He was a rogue. He was from Waterdeep. He worked for the Zentarum. That was the extent of his backstory. I have another character in another campaign 5e going on that I'm currently playing in who also had a kind of a crazy backstory, but even then it was minimal. It was a backstory I had to get passed through the game master, but then, no, it was very simple. It wasn't anything crazy. So the character was basically a magical book that possessed people, and
that's not anything crazy. Yeah, sure.
That's why that's the extent of it, though. I didn't know the extent of the book. I didn't know anything about the book. Just that it had grabbed a hold of this guy who picked it up, and I was playing that dude. Made it through 8 levels before we ever told any of the other players what I was. And it's been extremely easy to manage. There was nothing written down about the history of this character. We've just sort of role played it out as it happens. So, backstories don't have to be incredibly in depth. They don't have to be anything crazy. I really I think it was Gygax's, I think he's the one who talked about it, but your backstory is levels 1 to 3. It doesn't matter what happens before then. Your adventuring life starts when you're level 1. So that's kind of my thoughts on it.
I got a couple of takes on it. The thing I did most recently for one of my games, because I did want people to have backstory, because I didn't think that the secret that you began Rhyme of the Frost Maiden with was enough to really tie you to the place and give you a reason why you're there. So I adapted the Heroic Chronicle system from the Explorer's Guide to Wildemount if you guys have seen that before,
Mm-hmm.
where basically you can randomly roll both your background, and it gives you D100 roll for a backstory of homeland, background, social status, allies and enemies. So this was kind of helpful early on in the story where, they knew people in the towns that they could draw upon to get information, rumors, some minor magical items or potions and things like that. It gives them a little bit of your family, you have 3 siblings, you can name them. I don't feel like naming them. But this was kind of one of those things where it's randomly rolled because I didn't really want people to write me a big backstory because I knew myself and I knew I wouldn't read them. So instead, I gave everybody basically an hour on session 0 and said, "Hey, let's roll up y'all's backstory and what you get." And of course, part of the heroic chronicle is that you have something called a faithful moment, which basically sets you on your course of adventure of why you are an adventurer now. And some of them, it's great. You can get a feat out of it, or you can get a minor magic item out of it, or you can get just a ally who some powerful ally that can be a favor in a time of need and things like that. And especially early on in the game, when people didn't have a feel for their characters yet, it was very helpful for them to be like, "Oh, my identity is I'm a pirate. That's what I do." I ended up getting trapped in the ice on the sea of moving ice, and I ended up walking into Icewind Dale, and that's why I'm trapped here, and I'm just trying to get out. And that's just kind of your driving goal, and that's a very simple thing, and it feels very old school role playing to me, just because nobody wrote that other than like a couple of names. It was randomly rolled, and I didn't let anybody duplicate rolls. So you didn't have 2 acolytes. You had a charlatan and an acolyte, for example.
Yep.
And then you add the secret from Icewind Dale on top of it, and then basically you have your character. Like, people knew who they were before they started playing, and I used the allies and enemies portions of it probably till about maybe level 6 or so, when they frankly didn't really need it. They knew enough people, they knew enough NPCs, they knew enough about the world that they didn't need it anymore. And I did really like that. And if I were to run another 5e game again, that would be kind of what I did. On the other hand, Kristian and I have done some running of LARPs and have received backstories of people. And let me go and let you know that people will write volumes about their characters and about how they are a lost prince that has amnesia. But he will eventually earn the Sword of Slore, which is a plus 15 weapon that slays all dragons or some bullshit like that. And I'm not even joking about that. That is actually a thing that somebody fucking wrote down and submitted. This was not a child. This was a grown ass man that submitted this. And
Sword of
he's
Slore.
I'm exaggerating what the fucking name of it is, but Slore, the depths of the Slore, Ghostbusters.
Yeah. That's why I was questioning it.
Yeah, but yeah, I back when I was a kid, people would do backstories like that, but I was surprised when a grown ass man receiving this sort of backstories from other grown ass men and women about how their character used to be really cool, but now I'm only level 1 adventurer, and I don't feel like there's a need for that, really. I mean, Jay, what you're saying is kind of right. Do we really need to know what your character did beyond where you're from, how many people, what your family is? I need to know, and the other characters need to know. If I meet a young Raceland, that he has a brother named Caramon, and he's really strong, and that he's really weak because he was sick when he was young. That's what I need to know. That's about all I need to know. The rest of his family's dead. Sure. Traditional adventure story. Fantastic. That's really the extent of what you need to play D&D. And when you get too deep into it, it's no longer about playing D&D. It's more about running your character's backstory, which is not fun for the DM and is really boring for the rest of the party.
Yeah,
which is what I found. And then people will get jealous because, it took 3 weeks for so-and-so's character to run his backstory, but mine was just some demons showed up and fought me, and I got a magic item. It's like, Jesus Christ, here's getting a magic item.
Here's one of the problems you're seeing if it's I truthfully, I never have this issue, but if it's a problem out there in the overall gaming thing at the moment, it's probably because of Critical Role, where their entire, a large portion of the story of these professionally paid actors is to tell the backstories of their characters.
Oh, it's definitely not, because all those LARP backstories came way
Long,
before
Yeah.
that was a
long
thing.
Oh
before,
no,
yeah.
no, I know. I remember
even in
also run
D&D,
LARP. I know.
I remember distinctly going to a Dragon Con when I was in high school, and somebody showed up to a random Dragon Con game with a like multi-page essay on his character's backstory for that one module we were playing in a 4-hour session at Dragon Con.
God.
But now's the thing, you might be seeing game masters expecting this, because of what they've seen on Critical Role. So now you have these game masters who are younger and just inexperienced who are like, well, now I have to run these crazy ass stories for these characters' backstories. And I guess I shouldn't pin it all on Critical Role, because once again, I played Vampire the Masquerade. I know how a lot of these other tabletop games are, but I had just sort of seen this fall off a lot. And now I'm very insular with who I play with, so I don't really run into this shit. But I'm assuming it's still a problem. It's still out there.
Yeah.
Well, I will say from an Adventures League perspective, no one comes in with a backstory.
That's good.
And I can't do anything with your backstory. I'm here to run Monster of the Week for you. Here's the small, maybe tangentially related adventure.
Yep.
You present me with your character as you're playing it, and I will see fit to
Adapt the
bend
story.
to not even really the story, but just the adventure.
And something I appreciate about people who are, I do understand the type of person that needs to have the background of, like, some people do need to like write 3 or 4 paragraphs or a page or two about where their character came from to really get in the mindset of it. But I don't like the fact that some people submit it and then expect you as the DM to remember the 2 pages of story that they wrote about their character. I don't mind. I wouldn't mind though, like if somebody's like, "Oh yeah, I'm an elf, so I'm like 120 years old. I have 2 siblings, blah blah blah," and like, let's say we're in Waterdeep, and like somebody turns to me and says, "Hey, Dan, my brother's a wizard. I said that in my backstory that he's studying Waterdeep. Can you roll something to see if he happens to be in the city, if I can find him or something?" I'd be like, "Yeah, sure, why not? I'll roll to see if you can find him. Sure, maybe he can help you out. That seems fine." Like, pulling something in from your backstory to that kind of makes sense in the moment that could be plausible is great. Expecting me to run a specific backstory while the rest of the group just kind of hangs out with their dicks in their hands, no.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the crux of where I was going to come from with this is, so there's an argument to be made that someone that writes up a long backstory is invested in your game or in the character. And that can be a good thing, that this is a person that is probably, if they've bothered to create all this, is probably definitely going to be really present for the game and the story, assuming that they're not the type that has wrote a thing where they expect you to tell out their epic tale and expect it to go a certain way. But I think backgrounds are useful for players when they kind of help root you in the game. If you need something to just write some lines, whether it's, a few paragraphs or a few lines that just kind of helps you establish in your head, okay, where am I coming from? How did I get into this? That's great. It can be useful for a DM, like with Dan saying, if you're saying, hey, I have a brother here. Can we go talk to my brother that's a wizard? Because that's something that's useful, not like, hey, this is a story moment for me. Everyone else shut up while I have the spotlight. This is this is an add-on to the world that's useful for the party at large of, hey, maybe we can go find out a piece of information. It's a good way for the DM to drop, a piece of equipment or a piece of lore or a hook for a story. Those are useful backstories where you get something that adds to the game for everyone and not just for the one player.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's really what I feel like it's for. I feel like it's a useful tool, but it's definitely not necessary, especially for a group of veteran players. Like, for example, like if we were going to play Shadowdark, for example, I'm not expecting anything as far as backstory from Shadowdark, because 1, you got a real fragile character when you're first entering the Shadowdark. 2, half your character is completely randomly rolled. I mean, Why do I need a backstory from that? Like, make it up as you go.
Yep.
Yeah,
Level.
you get a general back. Now there are some games like I remember I played a brief or for a little while, I played a Witcher game, and part of that game includes, and there are other games that do this, includes a life path system, where you, much kind of like we did for Icewind Dale, Dan, is you roll things that kind of lead up to your, but they all are just kind of, they're all random rolls, and they all kind of are part of building your character because they give you some of the abilities that are there for your character. But they also give you, especially, or can be useful if you're not familiar with the game or the world. Those will give you a few touchstones to just kind of look at and be like, okay, well, I am a druid from this island, and I was a forester and an herbalist. So that gives me something if I know, hey, I'm familiar with sailing and herbalism and fishing. Like I know, and I'm from this place that's far away, so I don't have to worry about knowing all this stuff about where I'm at in the world. But I can talk about my weird island.
Yeah. I think that when you create a character in 5e, the character creation process does a lot of the heavy lifting. Like, what's your background? What flaws, if any, do you have? Or make up a flaw. I care more about your character and his personality than the long history of it. Like I had a character I did for a one shot, which was basically one of the Candlekeep one shots. And I played a Minotaur monk. So how do I explain why a Minotaur monk is in Candlekeep doing a thing? Oh, well, one of the scribes found a book. They opened the book, and there was a labyrinth inside. And I was the Minotaur that was inside. And ever since then, I've been raised at Candlekeep. And I punch things because I kind of attribute them to all being monks at Candlekeep, even though they're not. So there's my story. That's it. And that's as far as I go. Maybe the flaw is that because this Minotaur is living amongst all these scribes, they feel kind of intellectually inferior. So they kind of like try to sound smarter than they are. But, DM doesn't have to do anything with that. That's me role-playing my character that I have fun with, For my Waterdeep campaign, I just had 2 new players join. And I told them, it's like, I really, don't care what your backstory is, but I need to know why your character is in Waterdeep. Where you're joining at level 12, so you're a seasoned adventurer, so you should have some idea about what's going on and why you're leveled up that way. And on top of that, I do need a guild that you belong to. And I was frank with them. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to use this. That was more for levels 1 through 5. So it may not even come into play, but it'll help me to know that you're part of the Cobbles Guild if I ever need that, and something for you to work with. I had one player who basically was like a vagabond throughout the story, just kind of coming here and there and being everywhere. And he knew a lot of people, but he never really had a job or anything. And he's like, hey, would I know anybody mid-game? Like, hey, would I know anyone that could help me out, get some magic items and whatnot? And I had him do a roll, and he rolled like a 98 out of 100. So, fuck yeah, he knew somebody.
He knew Elminster.
He knew, not 100. Oh, well, that would have been 100. But yeah, he definitely knows a couple nobles, a couple friends that keep inviting him to parties, and he gets invited to these meetings where they put on masks and they vote for stuff. Oh shit, now you're a mass lord of Waterdeep and you didn't even fucking realize it. That character, that player still remembers that and talks about that moment to this very day. It's like, holy shit, I was a mass lord this entire time? It's like, yeah, don't you remember all those parties you kept getting brought to from your friend that was a noble? He's like, yeah, we discussed that. It's like, yeah, they were, the mass lord meetings. You were always voting on stuff. You just voted how he voted, but still, nonetheless, that's how it worked. Surprise. And he basically took that and now established a character. It's like, okay, I care about these people. I want people Waterdeep to be better. So I'm going to spend my time and efforts from here on out, figuring that thing out. So I don't really need a backstory. I want the actions in the game to drive the story, but I kind of need to know where you start. Thaladred is another character I play a lot of. He's just a giant and he's a soldier. And that's always the start. Those are the 2 pieces that start him. And from that, he's been a general. He's been a massive soldier thing. He's been a mech pilot. Like, he's got a lot of crazy stories, starting with just the fact that he's a giant person and he's a soldier. Other DMs have taken it, and for the LARP character, I actually wrote like 2 pages of backstory just to introduce the character as a barbarian and how he showed up, because I was told that all the LARP characters at Shadowmoor needed something like that. So I wrote that up and I put it in, and that hasn't come into play at all. Plot.
Be glad.
Yeah,
Be very glad.
Plot and who are basically the DMs at the LARP, have taken elements and created my backstory. And it turned out he was just stealing from Game of Thrones and Conan the Barbarian, but nonetheless, still made a couple interesting stories, so.
Yeah, but I think we're all kind of of the same mindset with games that like 5e or like D&D. You don't need much. You need a very simple understanding of what your character is, and that's about the extent of it.
He needs the purpose of being why he's there.
Yeah.
And once you understand what the purpose is of why he's there, you can figure everything else out.
Yeah.
And that's really all you need, I think.
Now, there are some role-playing games that do want a much lengthier backstory, but a lot of it's just going to come down to who's running things. And I don't think most DMs need to dig too deeply into the characters' backstories unless they really, really enjoy doing that.
Well, I really do enjoy doing that. If you as a player present me a 5-page backstory, I will put an amount of effort and time into that equivalent to what you put into that. So if you wrote 5 pages, I will read your 5 pages. And I feel that that's my duty as the DM basically.
Oh, I definitely disagree.
You better summarize that shit for me.
No. I will put in as much effort into your character's backstory as you do. Will I use it? I don't know, but I'm going to read that. I will take that information, and I will or will not do something with it. But by all means, have fun writing your story. So I mean, my wife has very creative backstories for her characters, and they drive a lot of the story just because there's a lot there. But she's not the main story that I have. She's like the side quest. When I can work them into a situation, then yeah, I'm definitely going to do it. And then I have a player who's just like, oh, this is just that guy, but he's exactly the same, just on the south side of the city. And I turned that into the guy being a clone of Manchun. So I can kind of run with any backstory that I'm given. I just need to have something.
All right. Well, anybody got other topics or anything we want to cover tonight, or is that it?
We haven't done a wonderful ecology in a while.
That's right. Yeah. Well, we were going to be doing a big one on dragons here soon, but Dan needs a little more prep time since things got moved around.
Do you have an ecology of that Grumpykin that you posted?
I don't have an ecology, but I can read about it. I've got the book sitting right here.
I would like you to, because you showed that thing off, and I was like, that is my power animal, and I need to know more about that thing that is my power.
Oh, see, I thought you had the book since you immediately just posted the same picture.
No, I was using Facebook AI to make the picture different.
Oh, okay. It just looked like the same picture.
It was the same picture, just through Facebook AI.
Yeah, jeez. Lame.
Boom.
Yeah, so that creature, it's called the Grumpkin. It came out of the Gateway to Adventure's Shadow Dark book, The Creature Companion, that was inspired by the art of Evelyn Moreau. See, I haven't even really read the whole thing, but the Grumpkin are a species that populates dungeons and labyrinths. They're typically found alone, as they are quite shy, and doubly so when confronted with their own kind. That doesn't sound like you. You're definitely not any of those things. Sages believe that they were created in ancient times as servants to the ghost elves. It is believed that they were engineered to be shy, so as to prevent collaboration and rebellion. They are also predisposed to greatly desire acceptance and praise. Additionally, the face of a Grumpkin always seems to appear either saddened or grumpy, hence the name they are called by. This is believed to have been another deliberate feat of magical genetic engineering intending to put off any other species from approaching them too often. They are the perfect servant. And it goes on and on. There's more to it, but that seems to be sort of the general take of them. They're genetically created to be grumpy and sad most of the time.
And I was genetically created to be grumpy and sad most of the time.
Yeah, make sure you share that photo of it on our Discord and socials.
The podcast chat on Discord. Yeah, I definitely will. I saw that animal and it kind of looked like, I don't know, like a horned lizard. You know,
yeah,
it
looks like where the wild things are.
Yeah, like if Godzilla was where the wild things are.
Yeah,
yeah. I felt an instant attachment to that character, and I needed to know more. And I'm glad you shared it because you know those are most of the descriptive terms that I've been told about me. Always frowning, always look grumpy and sad. Even my daughter today, when I was standing there at Target checking out, she's like, "Daddy, why are you so sad? Why don't you smile at all?" I was like, I just have a scowl, sweetie. That's just how I live."
It's and then bitch face.
And then she reached up and she pushed my cheeks up like to put a smile on my face.
Did it hurt? Did it hurt smiling?
A little bit, yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, my face isn't meant to go that way, but you know, to each their own, I guess.
Yep. Grump, 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 grump.
I mean, the childhood hero that I had is Garfield the cat, so that's where I got most of my.
That explains so much.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's like the only book I was allowed to read. I couldn't read D&D books. You know, the Satanic Panic was going on when I was a kid.
Yeah.
You know, I'm surprised I got to read Lord of the Rings.
Yep. All that Satanism in Lord of the Rings.
Well, no, I could read Lord of the Rings because, you know, that was acceptable. You know, I guess given the how like the metaphors of that.
Yeah, the iconography and so forth.
Yeah, that was fine. But you know, I could read Narnia, but I never did read Narnia.
I don't know that anyone has anyone in this podcast read Narnia? Because I sure as shit haven't.
I read the first couple.
Yeah, I've seen the movies.
I haven't read them. I wouldn't mind reading them, but it doesn't feel like I would enjoy reading them. And since you guys have turned me off on reading the Dragonlance book, I don't know if I want to start going out there to try to read the Narnia books.
Hey, do yourself a favor there, Chris, and just go ahead and get the Audible version of the Dragonlance books. They are pretty dope. They are pretty dope. Having heard them several times now.
I'll be honest, I've never listened to an audiobook once in my life ever.
Now's the time to start.
Yep, get started.
I don't know if I would enjoy it because the way I pay attention
you know what? Some having in the last couple of years with a fairly lengthy commute, I will say that I have filled it with reading many books to and from work. And if you have the right person doing the voices of the characters and like actually not just reading it in a monotone, it is quite entertaining.
Yeah, when I was stuck at a desk for work, I listened to a lot of the Dresden File novels and other books.
Well, see, for me, it's like what I use to I'm going to say quiet my brain is I use a lot of either music that has color association with it, you know, like the Windows screensaver with music running, you know. Oh shit, what was the thing we used back in Napster days? Oh, what was that mixer called?
Oh man.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about. I don't remember.
It was like Winamp or something. I can't remember.
Winamp. Yeah.
Like
little MP3 player, yep.
Yeah, so like having that going with colors is fine. I can put it on YouTube. I don't really care what the video is, as long as the color and noise is happening. That's really all I need is just color and noise.
Oh my god, guys! Winamp still exists. It's still around.
Oh thank God.
Winamp.com.
So like that's what I do. So like if I do pay attention to it too much, I find myself stopping and going back. That's why I can't listen to podcasts at work, because I want to listen to the podcast, but I also have to form sentences in my head, because usually it was when I was a technical writer. So I couldn't like write in my head while also listening to words being said. Sometimes when I did that, I found myself typing what they were saying. So
yeah, no, I've been there, done that. I get it.
So I don't know, it's always been a weird thing. Like audiobooks just never was a thing. And honestly, I hate to admit this, but when I was driving home, when I still worked at a desk job, I had to drive through the tunnels in Virginia Beach, and you'd be at a dead stop for 15 minutes, 20 minutes at a clip. I would just put my phone up on the dash and watch YouTube videos and shit like that while I was sitting in traffic.
Don't do that.
No, yeah, definitely don't do that at all. It is the worst possible thing imaginable. But honestly, when it took 45 minutes to go half a mile, I was pretty okay. But definitely don't do that. That's the worst thing you possibly could do. So that don't take advice from me, guys. I'm bad.
Yeah,
but like,
I mean, he doesn't believe in used bookstores, so definitely don't listen to him.
But I've worked remote most of my life, so.
All right. Well, I think we're done talking about D&D and tabletop games. So
today I bought 2 random packages.
You saved it for the end.
Of Godzilla blind boxes, and when I opened them, I got
we talking Magic the Gathering. What are we talking about?
No, just like little gotcha blind boxes that you find at like Target
with like little miniature Godzillas in them.
Yeah. And
do you exist in Tokyo? Why are you getting Godzilla blind boxes from?
Because I love Godzilla.
Have you met this guy?
But I mean, where are you finding this? You can't find a fucking used bookstore, but you can find Godzilla blind boxes in Charleston?
Well, I had to go to Target to buy a bathing suit, and I stopped by GameStop, which is right by the Target. So I was at GameStop.
Okay.
And so I opened it up, and one of the figures was Gigan. We all love Gigan.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Google him if you don't know him. And the other one was the super rare figure that I let my daughter open that box. So it was the super rare figure, which was Shin Godzilla.
Okay.
I then had to spend 45 minutes explaining to my daughter what Shin Godzilla was, and
you're not
what a
do that
metaphor
on here.
was, and how Godzilla was a metaphor for the nuclear bomb being dropped on Japan. And then I had to start explaining what a nuclear bomb was and why we were at war with it. So yeah, it was a hell of a conversation today. I think I'm not sure.
Turned into a history lesson for your child.
And she's like, so all the major countries have nuclear weapons right now? It's like, yep, they do. It's like, so if we get into a war, you're just going to launch nukes and everyone's going to die? Yep, that's pretty much what's going to happen. She's like, man, that sucks. And I was like, yep, that's it does.
Don't worry, duck and cover's still a thing.
Yeah, duck and cover.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I'm the
great.
Grumpkin.
All right, we're out of here. Thanks for listening, guys. Bye, Craig.
See you next week.